When a certain 1970 Chevelle convertible crosses an auction block, something strange happens before the bidding even starts. The room starts arguing. Not about the color, not about the condition, about whether the car in front of them should even exist. Chevrolet's own paperwork on this car is a mess. One respected muscle car historian says as few as 20 were built. Another puts the number closer to 80. A third source, pulling from actual dealer sales records, suggests it could be over 100. Even Chevrolet's own factory documentation from 1970 doesn't fully agree with itself. This is the 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 Convertible. The single most powerful engine of the entire muscle car golden age dropped into the rarest body style Chevrolet offered that year. And more than 50 years later, collectors, historians, and auction houses still can't tell you exactly how many genuine ones are left. That's not a marketing gimmick. That's a genuine, unresolved mystery sitting in plain sight at every major classic car auction in America. And to understand how a major American manufacturer lost track of its own most powerful car, you need to understand exactly how chaotic Chevrolet's order sheets had become by 1970. The order form that made anything possible. By 1970, Detroit's order sheets had become genuinely, wonderfully chaotic. A Chevrolet dealer's build sheet worked almost like a restaurant menu. You picked your body style, then layered engines, transmissions, and performance packages on top of it in combinations that would be legally and practically impossible for any manufacturer to offer today. That freedom produced some genuinely strange factory anomalies. If a customer walked in wanting a fire-breathing 400-plus horsepower big block dropped into a 9-seat family station wagon, the dealer's answer was simply, "Sign here." Nobody at Chevrolet Corporate was tracking every single combination with the kind of precision collectors would eventually wish they had. Somewhere inside that chaos, in 1970, Chevrolet introduced the most powerful engine option the Chevelle SS 454 lineup had ever offered, and buyers who wanted it in the rarest possible body style found themselves ordering so unusual that even Chevrolet's own internal records couldn't keep it perfectly straight. Because the engine at the center of this story wasn't just powerful. On paper, it was more powerful than anything else Detroit was legally allowed to sell that year. The engine that ended the arms race. The LS6 arrived in 1970, at a moment General Motors had spent years trying to avoid. The company had maintained an internal displacement ban on its mid-size platforms for most of the 1960s. A self-imposed limit meant partly to keep GM's own divisions from cannibalizing each other, and partly to avoid antitrust attention given the company's roughly 50% share of the entire American auto market. GM feared a government breakup enough to actually downplay racing and street performance corporate-wide for years. When that internal ban finally lifted for 1970, Chevrolet answered with the LS6, a 454 cubic inch big block built with 4-bolt main bearing caps, an 11.25-to-1 compression ratio, a solid lifter camshaft, rectangular port heads, and an aluminum intake manifold. The factory rating, 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Put that number next to the rest of Detroit's 1970 lineup, and the LS6 simply stands alone. Chrysler's legendary 426 Hemi, the engine most casual fans still consider the ultimate muscle car power plant, came in at 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet. Ford's Boss 429 and Cobra Jet options topped out around 375 horsepower. The LS6 outmuscled every one of them on paper, making it, by factory rating, the single most powerful production engine of the entire Golden Age. It was also expensive, and that price is the first thread in this whole mystery. The LS6 option added roughly a third to the base price of the car, a cost significant enough that it scared off a meaningful share of potential buyers all on its own. But horsepower and price weren't what made this specific configuration so difficult to track. That happened because of what buyers did with the roof. The body style that vanished into its own rarity. Here's where the numbers genuinely start falling apart. Chevrolet built 53,599 Chevelle Supersports total in 1970. Of those, 8,773 were SS 454s. Of those, 4,475 received the LS6 option. Already a small slice, and that combined figure includes hardtop coupes, convertibles, and roughly 500 El Camino pickups. Now isolate just the convertibles, and the historical record turns into a genuine argument. Author Robert Janot, in his book Chevy SS, 50 Years of Supersport, estimates the LS6 convertible production at somewhere around 200 units. Historian Mike Mueller, in Chevelle Collector's Library, puts the range considerably lower, somewhere between 20 and 80. More recent auction house research has floated figures as low as 26, while other dealer record-based estimates suggest the true number might actually be over 100. If stories like this, the ones where even the experts can't agree on basic facts, and the mystery itself is part of what makes a car legendary, are exactly why you keep coming back to this channel. Now's a great time to hit subscribe, because the reason nobody can pin this number down isn't bad record-keeping alone. It's what happened to these cars after they left the factory. Convertibles from this era were driven hard and modified without much regard for originality. Tops got replaced, bodies got customized, and because the LS6 engine itself remained genuinely valuable on its own, once the muscle car era cooled off in the mid-1970s and values collapsed across the board, it wasn't uncommon for owners to simply pull a perfectly good LS6 out of a convertible and drop it into something else entirely. Plenty of original cars were quietly dismantled years before anyone realized exactly what they were losing. And that exact problem, genuine engines disappearing from genuine bodies, created a second mystery, almost as difficult to untangle as the production numbers themselves. The clone problem that keeps collectors up at night. Because the LS6 convertible combination is so legendary and so scarce, it has become one of the most heavily cloned Chevelles in the entire hobby. And the visual differences between a genuine factory car and a well-executed recreation can be remarkably subtle. Here's the uncomfortable truth serious collectors have learned to live with. What actually separates a real LS6 convertible from a convincing fake usually doesn't live in the sheet metal at all. It lives on paper. Factory build sheets, broadcast sheets, dealer invoices, and matching engine casting numbers are what actually prove a car's authenticity. Because a skilled restoration shop can replicate almost every visible detail of an original LS6 convertible using period-correct parts, right down to the stripes and the badging. This is exactly why documentation commands such an enormous premium in this specific market. A car with a complete, verifiable paper trail connecting it back to its original factory build can be worth multiples of an otherwise identical car missing that same documentation, even if both cars look, sound, and drive exactly the same sitting in a showroom. And it's exactly why the production number debate matters so much more here than it does for most rare muscle cars. If nobody can agree whether Chevrolet built 20 of these or over 100, verifying that any individual survivor is genuine becomes even more critical and even more difficult. Which brings us to the part of this story where the mystery stops being frustrating and starts being genuinely profitable. Because when a documented, verified example does surface, the results are staggering. The auction results that keep rewriting the record book. Here's where the L6 Convertible's mystery status translates directly into some of the most jaw-dropping numbers in the entire muscle car collector world. The record most serious collectors still reference first is the Troopy and Kling car, a documented former NHRA Superstock champion, which sold through Barrett-Jackson in 2006 for $1,242,000. That sale, nearly 2 decades ago now, told the entire hobby exactly what a fully verified, competition-documented LS6 convertible could command. The records kept falling from there. A Fathom Blue LS6 convertible, fully documented with a 4-speed manual, brought $253,000 at a Barrett-Jackson, California auction. In spring 2024, a classic white example sold through Mecum for $600,000 hammer, $660,000 including fees, breaking the previous nameplate record by $28,000. That same year, a cranberry red example sold for $396,000 at Mecum's Indy Fall Special, falling short of expectations but still landing well into 6 figures. And the ceiling kept rising. At Mecum's Kissimmee auction in January 2026, a dark red LS6 convertible, one of 11 total LS6 Chevelles crossing the block that weekend, 2 of them convertibles, sold for $770,000, including the buyer's fee, setting yet another new record for the nameplate. For comparison, the more plentiful LS6 hardtop coupes, genuinely rare in their own right, trade in a considerably more grounded range, with the 2023 SCM Pocket Price Guide listing values between roughly $75,000 and $237,000. The convertible's scarcity, whatever the true production number actually is, puts it in an entirely different financial universe than its closed-roof sibling. And that gap between the coupe and the convertible is exactly why this car has earned a nickname inside the Chevelle community that most casual muscle car fans have never heard. Why collectors call it the Holy Grail. Inside the serious Chevelle collector community, the LS6 convertible carries a specific, well-earned title, the Holy Grail of the entire Chevelle lineage. Not the fastest configuration on paper, some LS6 hardtops, lighter, without a folding top's added weight, can be marginally quicker in a straight line. Not even necessarily the rarest Chevelle body style Chevrolet ever built. But the combination of the single most powerful engine of the entire Golden Age, wrapped in the rarest, most desirable body style of that specific model year, creates a kind of scarcity that goes beyond simple production numbers. One registry effort has attempted to track total surviving Chevelles across all body styles and configurations, and puts the number of confirmed survivors across every trim, not just LS6 convertibles, at roughly 300 cars total. Within that already small population, genuine, documented LS6 convertibles represent a fraction so small that dedicated Chevelle historians can often discuss individual known survivors by name, color, and current owner, the way baseball card collectors discuss specific graded rookie cards. That's the genuinely unusual position this car occupies today. It's not a car you casually shop for. It's a car you spend years tracking down, verifying, and, if you're serious about it, building a relationship with the small community of experts who can actually authenticate what you're looking at. The mystery around exactly how many exist isn't a marketing flourish. It's the honest, ongoing reality of trying to document a car that Chevrolet itself barely tracked carefully enough in 1970, sold into a decade that treated these convertibles as disposable performance toys rather than future museum pieces. Which brings us back to that auction room, where the argument over how many actually exist is exactly what makes the gavel drop so much higher every single time one appears. Somewhere between 20 and 100 cars. Nobody, not the historians, not the auction houses, not Chevrolet's own surviving records, can tell you the exact number for certain. What we do know is that when a genuine, documented one surfaces, it doesn't just sell. It rewrites the record book over and over, from $253,000 to $600,000 to $770,000 and climbing. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 Convertible isn't legendary because Chevrolet marketed it that way. It's legendary because it slipped through the exact cracks in Detroit's own chaotic order form freedom, built in numbers so small and so poorly documented that 55 years later, finding the truth has become almost as difficult as finding the car itself. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you know collectors still can't agree on how many of these exist? And which other muscle car mystery do you think deserves its own deep dive on this channel? Drop it in the comments. We read every single one. If this brought back a memory, or if it's the first time you're hearing it, hit like and subscribe for American automotive history most channels never bother to tell. See you next time.